We're doing a special show today. Bright Khumalo, my colleague, is in studio, and that's because we are discussing the MTN Zakhele Futhi scheme. We've had enormous interest in that. Yeah, and in studio with us, you can see his hands there already, is Craig Gradidge from Gradidge-Mahura Investments. Welcome, Craig. You are our go-to expert on these schemes because you have lots of clients in your financial advisory practice that have participated in these things before,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. It's quite complicated. It's a broad-based public offering, so there's been enormous media attention. So we've had a lot of requests, so we want to get into what it means, what the structure is, what do you have to do, where do you have to go, who can apply, and also whether or not MTN, the underlying investment, is a good one or not. Right. But before we do that, let's just do our usual homework, www.followhotstocks.com to join our mailing list. And let's have a look and see what our portfolio is doing. That's the two parts, local and international. Let's go there. Yeah, actually better. It went up by about 4,000 Rand yesterday. That's good after a bit of a weak market. It's been very volatile the last few days. Let's go to the US portfolio next. That will reveal that we also went up by about $300 or something, so that's not too bad, although we need to get to 36,000. And the biggest mover yesterday, breaking a very weak market in New York last night, was Apple. And that was because there have been reports that there have been enormous orders of those iPhone 7s. Yes, please. We'll have to see how those sell.
Yeah, I saw, I think it was T-Mobile actually came up with a statement saying 257% surge in actually pre-orders on their customer base. So that's pretty
People
amazing
starting
for
to
Apple.
queue outside the Apple stores in downtown Manhattan.
Yes.
Right. Enough of that. Let's dive into our conversation now about this thing, the MTN Zakhele Futhi. Very exciting. Let's go there. Okay, chaps, take it away. Craig, we'll start with you. Give us the broadest level, what is going on here, what it was, what it's going to be, and what the time frames and who can apply.
Yeah, so I think a lot of excitement in the market. This is the first deal since 2010. Actually, the last deal was MTN, well, the public deal.
Yes, a big public offering.
A big public offering. The last one was MTN Zakhele. And now that deal has matured, and we now have MTN Zakhele Futhi.
Because it has to be big companies that have got the ammo to actually do these schemes. Very expensive for them, right?
Yeah, so it generally is it's big companies that are in kind of business to consumer environment. So MultiChoice, Vodacom, MTN, Cecil perhaps, I think given the sheer size of Cecil, it made sense for them to do a public deal. So if you look at Zakhele Futhi, very much structured along the lines that Zakhele was structured. So anyone that invested in MTN Zakhele, you're getting pretty much the same thing. And quite, coincidentally or surprising or disappointing, but the MTN share price is still pretty much at the same place it was when the MTN Zakhele deal was struck.
So notwithstanding the opportunity, that does have to be kept in mind, right?
Well, I think that's good for the guys that want to buy the MTN Zakhele Futhi scheme, but the MTN Zakhele shareholders, I'm not so sure. Or the ordinary shareholders of MTN, actually.
Interesting, because despite MTN not doing well, MTN Zakhele did well.
Yes,
and when we go into the structure of the deal, we'll see why that is.
Yes.
So the deal is live. People can start applying.
There's a time frame, so you've got to wake up, people. If you're listening to this, you've only got until, when is it?
21 October.
21 October. Okay, so that's not like tomorrow, but you know how time goes with these things. And you can get yourself down to a branch of Nedbank or an MTN store, right? That's the first thing to keep in mind.
I understand this is just a Nedbank branch.
So the MTN store, you can get the prospectus itself, but the application is only done through Nedbank.
But this is great, and thanks very much to Nedbank, although I suppose MTN is paying them for this. That mean that you can actually go and fulfill the whole process with them.
Yes.
Usual FICA details required as well?
So, yeah, they want your ID, your utility bill.
Proof of residence?
Yeah, proof of resident, your bank statement, and your proof of tax if you have it.
You've got to do that as well.
If you have it, yeah, because they do ask for a tax number actually.
This is awkward. But it is important because the scheme is going to be one where you apply, but you won't necessarily get everything you apply for.
Yeah, of course.
So they have to be able to give you money back, perhaps.
Of course, it depends. Okay, so yeah, most importantly, once you're done with your application process, you actually get an SMS with your reference number.
Yes.
Which is going to be a number and your surname, basically. And that reference number, you use it to actually send money to the net bank account, right?
Right.
Yes. And then
like a big central control account.
Yes, someone's going to be doing a recon of some sort using those references.
Yes.
So in case there's an application of these shares, and then the allocation is done, then all the remaining cash will be given back to the people that...
But Craig, your experience is when they have these schemes, the smaller investors normally get filled.
Yes.
So if you apply for 2,000 Rands worth of shares, which is the minimum, chances are you're going to get filled in full.
Yes, so we saw with Zakhele, I think it was one of the Mvela Panda divisions that applied for about 100 million Rands worth of shares. So all the small investors got the allocation before the bigger institutional type investors were given. Yeah.
Now, I don't know, how many people actually own MTN Zakhele shares now? Because as we know, there's a deal for them. They can roll those into the new structure. And it sounded like they were going to actually give those people a good preferential access as well because they like them, because they've been supporters of the company.
They're being loyal.
Yes, I didn't see any preferential treatment towards them. But you've got the reinvestment offer, as it's called, if you're in Zakhele, where at least 50 shares, MTN Zakhele shares, you can convert to 100 or at least 100.
And if you don't convert them, you can take MTN ordinary shares or cash, and they're going to do that at the value at the prevailing moment when they do the switch.
To get MTN ordinary shares, you have to have at least 200 Zakhele shares.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Now, as far as the scheme goes, do you recommend that everybody that can scrape the money together should do this? And why is it that you say that?
You can't make a blanket kind of statement like that because this is an illiquid investment. So you got the first 3 years with no liquidity. And if you're drowning in debt, making an investment is probably not the wisest thing to do.
Sorry, what does it mean? It's illiquid for 3 years.
So it means that you cannot trade. Thank you for that, Brad. You cannot trade those shares for 3 years.
So the money will go to Nedbank. You'll own them. They'll send you a statement maybe, but you cannot sell them. You cannot redeem. You cannot get the money back. You're locked in.
Yeah.
So on that basis, it's not for everybody. And then it depends on the rest of your portfolio and what it looks like. So this, it shouldn't kind of increase on any risks you've got. It ideally should mitigate.
So again, I'm just answering and knocking off the simple questions. If you own MTN Zakhele now, that's going to stop trading at the end of the scheme. Then you'll be in this 3-year period of illiquidity, at which point after that you can trade them with another qualifying black shareholder for another 5 years. And then at the end of the scheme in totality, they will distribute and become totally tradable unless they decide to do an MTN Zakhele Futhi in 8 years' time and do the whole thing all over again. It's possible.
Yeah, and also remember, you always have the option of converting to actually ordinary MTN shares.
Even there at the end?
Yes.
Okay. Right, what else? What about entities? Do you think it's a good idea if people are sitting here listening and they've got an investment club or a empowerment vehicle that they've been working on, that they apply using those credentials?
Yeah, so I certainly think it's a good investment for investment clubs in particular. And I think the next 3 weekends of mine are taken up talking to some of the clubs that have approached me. So it is something. So the previous schemes have worked very well for clubs. And it also, I think, it gets you into that long-term investing mode as a club. It kind of pulls you along. Which I think is a good thing.
Okay. The funding model. Look, we don't want to get into too much technicality, but you did bring us a chart along here with you. And this one is the one which shows that the funding is about 10 billion Rand.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? That means that's what the MTN Zakhele entity will be worth, and that value comes from different sources.
Yes, so if we go through it line by line, so that first line is equity from public offer. So that's what when you pay your 20 Rand per share, That's what that line is, and the reinvestment offer from MTN Zakhele.
Okay.
Yeah.
So MTN Zakhele shareholders that opt to go into Zakhele Futhi, plus whatever money comes in from the public, 2.4 billion. There'll be some upfront costs and working capital that comes out. Then MTN have sold the MTN shares that are in Zakhele Futhi at a discount.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so that accounts for almost 2 billion of the funding. Then we have third-party bank funding in the form of MTN ZF preference shares.
That's how that'll be sorted, yes.
Okay, so that's interesting because you've got an 8-year deal, but that funding is for 5 years.
Okay.
So within the next 3 to 5 years, MTN Zakhele Futhi are going to have to renegotiate or refinance that portion of the deal. So it does present a risk that wasn't present in the MTN Zakhele deal. So it's a slight difference.
As far as the time we've got available, I mean,
Yeah.
I think what's perhaps important just to know is that this entity has got substantial vehicle capital. It's got a clever board which is looking after it. They're going to make sure that the cash flows are what they need to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this brings me to another and final point is, do you think it's correct to say that this entire scheme has effectively got a put option, or at least a safety net, there's a better
Yes.
term, provided by the MTN ordinary shareholders, that if something were to go wrong with the funding, they'll work something out in order to make sure that at least some value is
Yeah.
extracted?
So that last line that you saw there, which was the MTN Notional funding, Notional vendor finance from MTN. So essentially, the way the Notional vendor finance thing works, let's say you wanted to sell 1,000 shares to Bright and myself, but we don't have the money. So what you do is you sell those shares are trading at 100 Rand, you sell them to us for R1. So effectively we owe you 99 Rand per share. And we have an agreement that over the next 8 years we will use the dividends
Right.
from those shares to pay you back.
Good. That's a great deal.
So by the end of the period, if we've settled, let's say 50% of that debt, we then sell shares to the
Yes.
value of the outstanding debt to pay you back.
And hopefully if the shares have gone higher,
Hopefully the share price
then
has
you're looking
gone up.
good.
Exactly. So that's that vendor funding. Look at there's an interest, a notional interest that comes with it, but it's a way of de-risking the scheme because
Yes.
there's no cash flows that have to come out of there, and the success of the BE partners is tied to the success of MTN as a business.
Correct.
Okay, good. I think it's time for us to take a quick break just to pay the bills here ourselves. And while we're out on break, we will give some thought to whether or not the underlying MTN investment, what's going to happen with that? Because clearly it's trading at around 115, 116 rands a share. Hasn't done all that well recently. If it goes from here back to 400 rand a share in the next 8 years, that's going to be Christmas. But if it continues to battle, that could present us with certain difficulties. You're watching a special Hot Stocks show about the MTN Zakhele Futhi scheme. This is Bright Khumalo joining me in studio. And also we have Craig Gradidge, who is from Gradidge-Mahura Investments. You can go and Google search who that organization is and where to find them. Let's talk about MTN, guys. So, like I said, the outcomes here are quite starkly different depending on how the underlying entity does, both with regard to share price and dividend cash flows from the underlying entity. Just take us through that. You first, Craig, and then Bright, you can go next.
Yeah, so if we look at the performance of MTN from a price and a dividend perspective, those are the main drivers of the potential success of Zakhele Futhi. So it's understanding, the business, MTN as a business, and whether or not they'll be able to deliver over the next 8 years. Now, if talking about dividends, Zakhele Futhi potentially will pay a dividend, which Zakhele did not.
So if it does so well, the underlying cash flows are so
Yes.
strong, it could actually.
It could actually. But the important thing is that they settle debt first. So, management will have some discretion in terms of paying. They can pay up to 20% of the dividends they receive as a dividend to Zakhele Futhi shareholders. Okay.
Right, what do you think about MTN? Because we know it's like a poiky pot, MTN, that stands on these different legs, one of which is South Africa, the other is Nigeria, Iran probably.
Yeah, okay, so basically if you look at the business currently of MTN, investors are telling you that actually we are discounting the Nigerian operations totally. We're counting it at zero, if you want to call it that.
Which is astonishing because it's its largest business. It's got fantastic margins.
Yes.
But we know that Nigeria is currently
Unstable.
staggering.
Yeah.
And there was the regulatory fine for RICA
Okay,
offences.
I think the fine is more of a thing of the past, right?
I hope so. You're
yes.
comfortable. You're not going to come back for another bite.
Well, it's hard to say because if you look at MTN right now, their currency, the Naira, has been deteriorating ever since they sort of unpegged it somewhat. It's been going down against the dollar, and that's not good, you know. Things like inflation are going to start hitting the
Yes, because MTN will want to raise the price of its services in Naira.
Exactly. The consumer now is getting hit again. As long as this oil problem that we're having of oversupply and the volatility in the oil price itself is not settled, MTN Nigeria and Nigeria, the country itself, you know, it's hard to call it. I guess that's why the market is.
Look, at least oil is sort of stable at around $45 a barrel, isn't going any lower, so they can adjust to that level. Yeah. What about Iran?
Iran
seems like it's back in business.
Iran, you know, it's slowly, you know, picking its feet up. Things are going well somewhat. We hope it only gets better from here.
Sanctions are done. It's now better in the world economy, so there'll be further inward investment, etc.
Yes, and companies like MTN will be able to actually repatriate the cash.
And South
back
Africa,
home.
because MTN South Africa has had a few missteps. I mean, I'm not talking trash of them here, but they have not really been the market leader here.
Actually, they're spending a lot of capex in the local businesses. They're revamping all of their stores, and obviously they want to expand those stores to even more. Just for you as an MTN, you know, customer, have a better
and I assume also better base station expenditure too. So
exactly.
LTE. So what is this 3G? If I'm like 3G, and if it's like Edge, I'm like screaming. What is that?
Yeah, my phone actually doesn't work on Edge or 3G, so I only need LTE.
Craig, what about new management at MTN? That's also something people have been touching on.
Yes, so there's the Nedbank connection there with Rob Shooter coming in.
He was at Nedbank, then he was at Vodacom.
At Vodacom, yeah.
He was at Standard Bank as well for a while.
Yeah. So I think the new team potentially, the market seems to like it. The new team that's in place, good skill set. But you know, this telecommunications, things change rapidly.
Yeah. And
you know, you've got fiber to home now, which means that as soon as you get home, you can put your data off and log in via your fiber.
And then you can phone people using FaceTime or WhatsApp calling or something else, and then you're not even using their network anymore.
Exactly, and you've seen voice revenues have been reducing for network.
However, I've got kids that run around playing Pokemon Go, and then they send me an SMS saying, "Dad, buy me some more MTN airtime."
So just to speak about Pokemon Go and the new Super Mario that's coming in the iPhone again. Yeah. The CEO of Niantic, was said is actually pretty stoked and is keen the fact that he's going to be working with Apple now, and that means more data spending basically for every holder of the iPhone. I guess after some time it will also become to Android, these games.
So your sense, what you're saying between all of this is that people will have rich apps that they will be very committed to using, and accordingly the data sales will be
and
strong.
they're very, very demanding on data. Yeah, and data, like everyone says, is going to be the new oil. And I mean, you want to position yourself where you invest in a company that has this access to data, right? And MTN is perfectly aligned in terms of that.
So in the hot stocks portfolio, we actually own MTN shares, and this is why we just generally think the risk-reward relationship is good. And 8 years is a long time. Over 8 years, the share price can really move along. It can pay a lot of dividends. MTN's always been a good dividend payer. Yeah. So I know it's a matter of opinion, but my sense is that if you are enticed by the scheme, you should go for it, because the underlying point of value in MTN is probably there.
Yes. So the other chart that you were going to put up.
Well, let's put it up. That's the one which shows how this could go. Yes.
So you see that MTN doesn't have to do spectacularly well for MTN Zakhele Futhi to do well. So if you just take top to bottom, an 80% increase in the MTN share price, you're looking at about a 300% return from Zakhele Futhi potentially.
Right.
You
so
know.
it's geared. And
So
it's,
well,
Yes,
that's
four
the
times.
gearing as well as the discount. That's the impact of
The 20% discount.
the
correct.
discount, exactly. So MTN have de-risked Zakhele Futhi to a large extent. It doesn't mean that there's no risk. Certainly if the MTN share price were to go down about 25-30%, it could break debt covenants on the pref shares. So, you know, those risks remain.
Very real, yeah.
But MTN doesn't have to do fantastically well. So an 80% return in 8 years is, you know, it's
Actually
about,
not.
Really fair.
it's not single-digit returns.
yeah.
But you're looking at double-digit returns potentially for Zakhele Futhi.
And
Yeah.
clearly, if MTN does well, like a 15% return per year and doubles
Yes.
over 5 years and then does a little extra in the last 3, then it could be that
We
it's
are fantastic.
substantially in the
Yeah.
in the
It
green.
could be.
And I mean,
Right.
if you look at the MTN share price right now, the price is right for any investor who actually even want to directly invest in MTN. It ticks a lot of boxes. I mean, even the value guys are starting to look at MTN right now
Yeah.
because the share price has gone down by so much. Remember, their all-time high was 260 rands,
Yeah.
and they're currently sitting at 119 rands.
Which is substantial negative adjustment right there.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. So in the portfolio, like I said, we actually own the MTN shares, the ordinaries, and this is an opportunity, provided you're prepared to be patient and accept the lock-in. Just one final technical question, because now we're circling back. If you are already, like you are, Bright, a qualified, empowered shareholder in your account on the JSE,
Yes.
should you go and buy MTN
Zakhele.
Zakhele now
Now.
in order to apply for the conversion and then get some sort of transfer opportunity? Does it make sense to park the shares with your broker as opposed to going the Nedbank route?
Cost-wise, for the average investor, right, it makes sense just to do everything through Nedbank because you're getting the shares. There's no brokerage you're gonna pay there.
Yeah.
There's all
You
of
don't have
those
to
other
own
costs.
the account and hold the account open
Yes.
for the period while nothing is actually going on.
But if you have a huge account already and you already have a broker
Like
with
you.
you, with your broker, it makes sense to actually just buy
Yeah.
buy them through your broker and let your broker do all the sweating. Why should
Yeah.
you go to the Nedbank
Yeah.
if you're already
Yeah.
paying for an account?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Craig?
you have to go to Nedbank even if you're taking up the reinvestment
Yes.
offer.
You
Yes.
have to kind
Yes.
of flag
So-
yourself.
So you still
Yeah.
have to go through that process. But the other thing is the answer to that question depends on the discount that applies between Zakhele and MTN.
Which they've been very cagey. It doesn't really appear anywhere, and it looked to me on reading that it would just be done on a cash-for-cash basis using the
No,
price
I'm
of stuff.
saying if you value MTN Zakhele
Yes,
based on the MTN share price
correct.
and look at what MTN Zakhele is actually trading at, and if there's a discount between what it should be at and its NAV and where it's trading,
Yes.
then if the discount's big enough, it may be
then it makes
worthwhile
sense. Yes.
to go through the effort.
Yeah,
Snaffle a
the last
few.
time I checked, around the share price was around 125 rands. The discount, the net asset value of the MTN Zakhele was around 75 rands, and it was trading around 61 rands. So
Yeah.
there is a good discount there, but
Yeah,
you
but
know
that's
that might have
disappeared.
changed. Yeah,
It has
since
disappeared.
then.
Plus, people know, so they who own them are probably taking their time and gearing them up and doing their numbers and calculating and working out what they can do.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to bring this back together again. So, just final comments. And Craig, we know that we've hogged the entire show talking about MTN Zakhele Futhi, but we'll have to have you back on again to talk about some other stuff that might be happening with the Imperial Okamba scheme. There was Velkom Yizani. There's been stuff going on.
Yeah.
Anything you just want to bring to people's attention before we wrap it up?
In terms of those other two, or
It's
Zakhele?
absolutely, you're going to have to be really brief there.
No, I think nothing earth-shattering on that side.
But if you own those, presumably
if you
keep
own them,
owning
keep them.
stay alert.
There's good
Be work.
discounts. There's good discounts there, so it's worthwhile to keep them.
Possibly even snap up a few if there's
Exactly.
an opportunity to. Okay, good. So there you go. That's our Hot Stock show. Thanks very much for watching the MTN Zakhele Futhi. Remember, time is running along, comrades, so don't be sleeping. get yourself down to a Nedbank branch or pick up one of these prospectuses, because you have to actually get recognized and get the reference code.
Yes.
And then you get to make the transfer into the account, and you might have some homework to do to get all of that sorted and organized.
Correct.
Excellent. So there you go. Hot on MTN and hot on MTN Zakhele Futhi. Definitely a great opportunity. Thanks very much to our guest. That's Craig Gradidge. He is from Gradidge-Mahura Investments. We'll put your tweet handle, I think, up there in a minute, Craig, because that's a good way of people getting hold of you. I mean, Google works relatively easily if you search on Craig's name as well. And www.followhotstocks.com. One final reminder to join us there. It's Wednesday today, is that right?
Correct, it's Wednesday.
So we need some feedback for our Friday show, Bright and I. So let's go through those Twitter handles. Mine is @Paul_Vestact. Bright's here is Brightless. There you go. Those should be appearing at the bottom.
Yes. And
Craig is Gradidge
C.
Gradidge C. Right. You'll be able to see those in just a few moments. Excellent. Thanks for watching our show.